Mike Hoffman yet to suit up for the Montreal Canadiens in preseason because he's dealing with an injury, and it doesn't look as if we're going to be seeing him for much, or I think all of training camp. So we might not get to see Mike Hoffman until the regular season starts. What do you think when he is healthy, of course? I mean, goal scoring, I think, is the biggest thing with him. But what do you all envision he'll be able to bring to this hockey team?
Well, I think the goal scoring is the main thing, that you have a reliable guy who has NHL experience, who has been the person that has been counted on in a game to find a way to score a goal. And that's something that the Montreal Canadiens need. For the longest time, how many times have we heard, the coaching staff or players, when they can't score goals, they talk about how difficult it is to score goals in the NHL, or at least, they're getting opportunity and eventually the goals will come. Hopefully having a guy like Mike Hoffman in the lineup, you won't have to be hearing those excuses over and over, because you have a guy who's able to get the job done. And on top of that, it will also, I think, take some pressure away from some other players that are being looked upon to be the person who's going to go out there and score goals. So it just kind of gives the goal scoring a little bit, it gets it a little bit more spread out when you have a player like him. And I'm sure that's one of the number one reasons that Marc Bergevin went out and got Mike Hoffman.
And, Mike Hoffman is going to be a great addition to the hockey club. I mean, in 545 games, almost got 400 points in the NHL. And this is a guy that he produces each and every year. And he's got unbelievable speed. He's got a great shot. And he's a power play guy that can really make things happen out there. So you put all those ingredients in one player, it's a win-win situation. It'll be really nice to see when he comes back and just see what he can do when he is given the opportunity. But I think he's a great player, and I think he's going to score some goals for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, Hoffman's in the NHL because he can score. I mean, that's his skill, is scoring. 6 straight 20 seasons with at least 22 goals before last season because of the shortened season, but he would have scored over 20 goals again last season. So basically 7 straight seasons of, you're going to get between 20 and 30 goals from him. Also, he scored 189 career goals, and 67 of them are on the power play. Now, I wasn't very good at math in high school, but that's like a third of his goals have come on the power play. And we all know,
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, we all know how bad the Canadiens' power play has been in recent years. So Hoffman's a guy who can come in and really add to that power play. Dvorak's another guy who can score a lot of goals on the power play. So Hoffman was brought here because he can score goals, and also he can score goals on the power play. So that's, he's not a great 200-foot player. Maybe some questions in the defensive zone with him, but he can score. And Canes have a lot of wingers now who can score. So good pickup by Marc Bergevin during the offseason. Obviously, the injury, he injured himself getting ready for training camp. They say he's going to be out at least 4 weeks, so he's going to miss all of training camp. That's not only going to hurt him as far as conditioning-wise, but he's not going to have any chemistry with any of the guys that he'll be playing with. So that's a tough break for him and for the Canadiens. So I think it's going to take him a while once he does come back to actually fit into the lineup and become the player he can be. But once he's healthy and once he gets some chemistry with his line mates, he's going to score goals. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I'm just really curious with Mike Hoffman. I mean, the fact that he's already going to be kind of behind the 8 ball with the fact that he won't go through training camp because of his injury. He'll have to worry about chemistry with other guys, but I'm trying to write him into this lineup here. While Jess was saying her answer, I started just kind of drawing up some lines. You know what? I'm not going to show the notebook only because I don't need people to see what my penmanship is like. But let's imagine what Toffoli, Suzuki, and Caulfield on a line together, and the Drouin, Dvorak, Anderson line sticks together. Could we see a third line of Mike Hoffman, Jake Evans, and Brendan Gallagher? We were talking about Brendan Gallagher as a third line winger on our full episode, which you should check out. But I like the idea of a third line that has Mike Hoffman and Brendan Gallagher with the scoring ability, the feistiness of Gallagher. And Jake Evans, I mean, Stu and I think we're both pretty high on Jake Evans as an NHL player. I know he's able to provide stuff defensively, but I think he has a little bit offensively as well. And I think between those two players, those two guys should help. So I think if Mike Hoffman, a guy who I think is able to put pucks in the net, he's shown throughout his NHL career that he's able to do so. I don't think him being on the third line will hurt him in that regard. I don't think he'll necessarily be hurt too much by being a third liner trying to pot in goals. And to your point, also, I think in the full episode, Stu, about Cole Caulfield still being a rookie, if he goes through those growing pains, It's nothing to put Mike Hoffman back on the first line and see if he can get some offensive production that way.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, too, Hoffman's not great defensively, but you put him with Evans and Gallagher. Well, those two guys are really good in their own end, on both ends of the ice. So if that's your third line, that's not a bad third line. And then you also have Cedric Paquette, who could also replace Evans. I mean, Evans has shown he doesn't have a ton of offensive ability. It might be a case of just the role he was put in as a fourth liner. He's not expected to provide a lot of offense. If he does indeed find the role on the third line, that might give him a little bit more confidence offensively. But yeah, that's a pretty good third line.
I think there's a lot of teams that would love to have that problem with that type of scoring punch on the wing, on all the wingers. I mean, just looking down the group, we talked about it before. They got some great snipers there, and they're going to make some things happen. So they're going to be really fun to watch, and hopefully tough to keep them off the scoreboard.
And it's funny. Sorry, I was just going to say, not that long ago, this team could barely put together, two top lines. So It's nice now seeing how much depth that they have, that they can have a very competitive lineup.
And if those are the three lines, Julian, then you have Joel Armia on the fourth line. That's a pretty darn good fourth line player, especially if Armia can bring it every night. I mean, the skill is there, the size, the shot, everything else. So you've got like Armia and Lehkonen and Paquette or whoever on the fourth line. They're pretty solid. As I've said in previous episodes, I think the biggest question mark with Canadiens, or question marks, are going to be defense with the loss of Weber and the health of Carey Price.
We haven't even accounted for Paul Byron, who's going to be out till Christmas. And if he's healthy, where he'll fit in this lineup. And Ryan Poehling, if he finds a way into this lineup as well and fights his way to get a spot in camp, maybe he takes a spot away from Cedric Paquette. But that is a whole other episode in itself when it comes to Ryan Poehling and some of the other young players on this team fighting for jobs with the Montreal Canadiens. And you should check out our full episode at hockeyinsideout.com and on YouTube if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel. MontrealGazette.com newsletters is where you can find the Hockey Inside Out newsletter. I think someone's dog is really excited at that. So even if animals are excited, I'm sure if animals are excited about newsletters, then you, human watching this, should be excited about it as well. I think I got through everything. I think I did. There's a lot to get to, but just remember this. Just watch episodes of Hockey Inside Out. It's actually good for you if you want to know everything there is to know about the Montreal Canadiens.